You won't see this one coming on a radar screen. There's no wall of rain, no rotating storm, no line of red and purple marching across the map to warn you. And that is exactly what makes it so dangerous. Because while a huge part of the country is watching for thunderstorms this weekend, an entirely different kind of monster is building over the west, in the center of the country. A silent, invisible one that kills more Americans in a typical year than tornadoes, hurricanes, and floods combined. It's a heat dome. And this isn't a run-of-the-mill hot spell. Forecasters are calling the one setting up right now the strongest on the entire planet. A dome of high pressure so powerful it's already shattered dozens of temperature records, put more than 87 million Americans under heat alerts, and it's forecast to keep building and expanding straight through the weekend into the opening days of August. This is a big deal, and most people are underestimating it. So today we're breaking down exactly what's happening, where it's most dangerous, why the nights might be the scariest part, and how to actually protect yourself and the people you love. No hype, just the science, the scope, and the real stakes. Because heat is the threat people take the least seriously, and it's the one that hurts the most of us. But before we dive in, do me one quick favor, because it genuinely helps this channel. Drop a comment right now and tell me where you're watching from and how hot it's supposed to get where you are this weekend. If you're out west, in the desert southwest, up in the northern plains, tell me your forecast high, because the numbers people are about to share are going to be jaw-dropping. And if you want to stay ahead of dangerous weather instead of getting blindsided by it, hit subscribe. It's free, it takes a second, and it keeps you and your family safer. A thumbs up helps push this out to more people who need the warning. All right, let's get into it. Let's start with what a heat dome actually is, because once you understand the mechanism, you understand why this weekend is so serious. A heat dome is what happens when a strong ridge of high pressure parks itself high up in the atmosphere and refuses to move. Think of that high pressure, like a giant lid clamping down over a huge region. As air sinks underneath that lid, it compresses and heats up, and the lid traps it there, right at the surface with nowhere to go. It's like the atmosphere putting a lid on a pot and cranking the burner. But here's the part that makes a heat dome so much worse than a normal hot day. It also suppresses clouds and shuts down rain. No clouds means the sun beats down unfiltered, day after day, baking the ground. And with each passing day, the heat doesn't reset. It builds. The ground gets hotter, the air gets hotter, and because there's no rain and no clouds to break the cycle, the whole system just keeps compounding on itself. That's why heat. Domes produce those brutal record-smashing stretches of extreme temperatures that go on for days or even weeks. And that is exactly what's setting up right now. Forecasters are tracking a strong, stubborn upper-level ridge parked over the western United States and the northern Rockies, stretching up into western Canada, and it's expected to hold firm for multiple days straight, right through the weekend and into early August. The hottest air is getting trapped under the core of that dome, spread across a massive footprint. California, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, and it's not staying put. The heat is forecast to build northward over the west through the weekend, then push into the north-central U.S. early next week, and expand from there. This is a sprawling, moving, intensifying event, not a one-day fluke. So let's talk numbers, because this is where it gets genuinely alarming. Across a broad swath of the affected region, forecasters are calling for high temperatures in the range of 95 to 105 degrees. That alone is dangerous. But in the desert southwest, the valleys of Arizona, Nevada, and southeastern California, we're talking about highs reaching 112, 115, even up to 120 degrees. Let me say that again, 120 degrees. That is the kind of heat where the human body simply cannot keep up, where being outside for too long isn't uncomfortable. It's life-threatening. And this heat wave has already been flexing its muscle. In just the last few days, dozens of daily record highs have been broken across the central and southern plains, and forecasters expect multiple major cities could set new records for the entire year as this dome intensifies. Right now, more than 87 million Americans are already under some form of heat alert. That's a quarter of the country, all under warnings for the same threat at the same time. Now here's the part almost nobody thinks about, and it might be the single most dangerous element of this entire setup: the nights. When we think about heat, we picture the blazing afternoon sun, but it's actually the overnight temperatures that determine whether a heat wave becomes deadly. Normally, even after a scorching day, the temperature drops at night and gives your body, in your home, a chance to cool down and recover. That nighttime relief is what keeps a hot day from turning into a health crisis. But under a powerful heat dome like this one, the overnight lows are forecast to stay stuck in the upper 70s and even around 80 degrees in some urban areas. That means no relief. Your body never gets its break. The heat stress just accumulates, hour after hour, day into night into the next day. This is exactly why heat waves with warm nights are the ones that fill emergency rooms and, tragically, morgues. It's the relentlessness, the lack of any cool down, that overwhelms the human body, especially for the elderly, for young children, for people with heart or breathing conditions, and for anyone without reliable air conditioning. And that brings me to why heat deserves so much more respect than it usually gets. Heat is, quietly, the #1 weather-related killer in the United States. It doesn't get the dramatic footage that a tornado or a hurricane gets. There's no viral video of a heat dome, but it kills more people year in and year out than almost any other weather threat. And it does it silently, indoors, to the most vulnerable among us. Just earlier this summer, previous rounds of extreme heat across North America were already blamed for dozens of deaths, and several states out west saw stations record their highest temperatures since record-keeping began. This is not theoretical. This is a hazard that is actively taking lives this year, and this weekend's dome is one of the most intense chapters yet. But the danger doesn't stop with the direct health threat, because a heat dome sets off a whole cascade of secondary problems, and they're all ramping up right now. Let's walk through them. First, the power grid. When 100 million people crank their air conditioning to survive triple-digit heat, demand on the electrical grid skyrockets. That strain can lead to rolling blackouts or outages at the worst possible moment. Because a power failure during extreme heat isn't just an inconvenience, it can be deadly, cutting off the air conditioning that vulnerable people are literally depending on to stay alive. That's the nightmare scenario emergency managers worry about most during an event like this. Second, drought. All this relentless heat and sunshine with no rain to balance it is rapidly baking the moisture out of the soil. Forecasters are warning about what's called rapid onset drought developing across major agricultural regions, the plains and the Corn Belt, where crops are in a critical stage of the growing season. When the soil dries out, this fast in the peak of summer heat, it can stress and damage crops in a matter of weeks, with ripple effects that eventually reach grocery store prices for all of us. And third, and this is the big one, wildfire. This is the connection people don't always make until it's too late. Extreme heat plus no rain plus low humidity equals tinder-dry vegetation across the West. You're essentially turning the entire landscape into kindling. All it takes then is a spark, a lightning strike, a downed power line, a careless campfire, and you've got the conditions for fast-moving explosive wildfire growth. Forecasters are already flagging worsening wildfire concerns across the driest parts of the West as this dome intensifies. So the heat isn't just a health threat in the moment, it's loading the dice for fire disasters in the days and weeks to follow. Now, I want to zoom out for a second because there's a fascinating and important piece of context here. What's happening this weekend is actually one half of a dramatic split across the country. A genuine tale of two Americas. While the West and the center of the country bake under this expanding heat dome with record temperatures, little rain, and rising fire danger, the eastern side of the country is on the opposite side of the jet stream, dealing with a cooler, wetter, stormier pattern, periods of rain, and even severe thunderstorms. One nation, two completely opposite extremes at the exact same time. And that split is not a coincidence. It's the direct result of the way this powerful ridge is bending the jet stream, forcing the heat up and over the west while shoving the storm track to the east. It's a striking illustration of how a single dominant weather feature can hand one half of the country a heat emergency and the other half a flooding threat in the very same weekend. And here's the bigger backdrop worth understanding. Heat domes have always happened. They're a natural feature of summer, but the ones we're seeing lately are landing on an atmosphere that's running hotter than at any point in the modern record, and in a year shaped by a powerful El Niño. Both of those factors load the deck toward more intense, more frequent, more dangerous heat. So when you feel like these blistering heat waves have been coming more often and hitting harder, you're not imagining it. This weekend's dome is part of a pattern, and it's a pattern that rewards taking heat seriously. So let's get to the most important part. What you actually do, because information without action is just anxiety, and heat is one of the most preventable threats there is if you take the right steps. Here's your game plan. Number 1, hydrate and start before you feel thirsty. By the time you're thirsty, you're already behind. Drink water steadily throughout the day and go easy on alcohol and caffeine, which dehydrate you. If you're working or exercising outside, this is non-negotiable. Number 2, stay cool during the peak heat, which is typically late morning through early evening. If you have air conditioning, use it. If you don't, this is critical. Find somewhere that does. Many communities open public cooling centers during extreme heat. Libraries, malls, community centers. A few hours in air conditioning during the hottest part of the day can be the difference between safe and in serious trouble. Check whether your area has cooling centers, and don't be too proud to use one. Number 3, and this is the one I need you to really hear. Check on the vulnerable people in your life. The elderly neighbor who lives alone, relatives with heart or breathing conditions, anyone you know without reliable air conditioning. A phone call or a knock on the door during a heat wave genuinely saves lives because the people most at risk are often the least able to ask for help. Take 5 minutes this weekend to check on someone. Number 4, never ever leave children or pets in a parked car, not even for a minute, not even with the windows cracked. In this kind of heat, the inside of a vehicle can reach lethal temperatures in a matter of minutes. This one is 100% preventable, and it happens every single summer. Don't let it happen to you. Number 5, know the warning signs of heat illness. Heavy sweating, muscle cramps, weakness, dizziness, nausea, and a headache are signs of heat exhaustion. That's your cue to get to a cool place, hydrate, and rest immediately. But if someone stops sweating, their skin goes hot and dry, they become confused, or they pass out. That's heat stroke, a life-threatening emergency. Call for emergency help right away and work to cool the person down while you wait. Knowing that difference could save a life this weekend. And if you're out west, be fire aware. Avoid anything that could throw a spark in dry areas, follow any local fire restrictions, and if you live in a fire-prone area, know your evacuation plan before you ever need it. Here's the honest bottom line. Something very big is developing this weekend, and it's not a storm you can watch on radar. It's a massive, record-challenging heat dome expanding across the west and center of the country, one that forecasters are calling the strongest on the planet, already breaking records and threatening tens of millions with dangerous, relentless heat that won't even let up at night. It's the kind of threat that gets underestimated precisely because it's quiet, no wind, no rain, just an invisible building danger. But it's real, it's serious, and the cascade it sets off, grid strain, drought, wildfire, makes it one of the biggest weather stories in the country right now. The good news is that heat is survivable when you respect it. Hydrate, stay cool, check on the people who need it, and don't let the silence fool you into letting your guard down. I'm going to be tracking this dome all weekend and into next week. How hot it gets, how far east it spreads, what records fall, and how the fire and drought threat evolves behind it. If you want to follow along and stay ahead of it, subscribe so you don't miss an update, because in an event like this, being informed early genuinely keeps people safe. Hit that like button to help this reach more people sweating it out in the path. And drop a comment. Where are you watching from, and how brutal is your forecast this weekend? Tell me. I read them all, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay cool, stay hydrated, and check on each other out there. This is a big one.